The way that we see it, a lot of the large tech players, as well as a lot of the largest supermarket chains, they really dominate and they own discovery. In order for regional grocers to really compete, they need to think about things a little bit differently. So, Instacart fills a very specific need. But the question is, at what cost? If I'm a regional grocer, do I really want to give away my data? Because let's be honest, Instacart's going to own that data. Who's going to monetize? Instacart has their own retail media network. They've got their own CPG customers that advertise on Instacart and not at the grocery retailer. You're taking my data, you're taking my money. Do I really want to give those things away?
Welcome to the Retail Agentic Podcast, where we explore the intersection of retail, e-commerce, and AI agents, which we call Retail Agentic. Our mission is simple. We are shining a bright light on the new Agentic AI shopping megatrend, which will disrupt the trillion-dollar digital retail market. The stakes are high. Google, OpenAI, Microsoft, Perplexity, Amazon, Apple, Meta, and Anthropic are all fighting to be the consumer AI shopping agent winner. There are going to be some tough decisions for online brands and retailers to make. What happens to checkout? How should payments work? Should you continue to invest in retail media networks? What does the world look like when over half of your traffic is not from humans, but from AI agents? These existential questions are the tip of the iceberg. On this podcast, we're talking to industry experts, analysts, and influencers to get answers to these questions, identify trends, and best practices. This is Retail Agentic, your podcast partner in navigating our AI shopping agent future. And now here's your host, Scott Wingo.
Welcome to Retail Agentic. Today on the podcast, I'm excited to welcome Joseph Lee. He is co-founder and CEO of Delectable AI. Delectable is a vertical agentic shopping engine in the grocery category. This is pretty unique because we've had a lot of the horizontal players on from OpenAI and whatnot. Now we're having some of the vertical folks come on and tell us what they're building. So this one's interesting because they're going to be disrupting grocery. Most of the vertical agentic shopping solutions are in the fashion category. That's a hotbed. We've got a couple in electronics. We're starting to see some deal kind of tracker agents pop up. But this is one of the first ones I've seen in the grocery category. In this conversation, we go through Joe's background. What does he know about e-commerce that makes him think that he can help build a company that's going to disrupt grocery? Turns out he has been in the industry quite a bit and knows this space really well. Then we dig into Delectable. What are they? Who is their customer? How's this going to work? What's the grocer or the merchant side look like? And then what's the shopper side look like? We also get into kind of through sideways into a retail media network conversation, which I think a lot of my RMN friends will find interesting. I hope you enjoy this conversation. It's pretty far-reaching, and at the end, we learn a lot about what they're building at Delectable. This is going to be one we keep a pretty close eye on. They do have a customer. They're not at liberty to say who it is yet, but when they launch, we'll be tracking them here on the Retail Agentic Network to make sure that everyone sees how these things are developing, as we're still in the early days of agentic commerce, and we're keeping an eye both on the horizontal and vertical solutions. Enjoy the show. Welcome to this episode of Retail Agentic. I am joined today by Joseph Lee. He is the co-founder and CEO of Delectable. You can learn more about Delectable at delectableai.com. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Scott. It's great to be here.
Awesome. And I'm in North Carolina. Whereabouts are you?
I'm just north of Toronto in a little city called Richmond Hill.
A lot of e-commerce in Canada, thanks to our friends at Shopify. I'm sure at some point you've run across 1 trillion Shopify people there in Toronto, if I recall.
Just a few.
I think they're all virtual now, so I don't even know if they even have an office anymore or anything.
Yeah, they do downtown, and it's fairly large with lots of folks.
Yeah, but Toby and Harvey are definitely Torontoans.
Torontonians.
There you go. Thank you. I knew you would know. Let's jump into your background. So you, a lot of times folks come on and they have no e-commerce experience. You are the opposite of that. I think you've worked at pretty much every company that has e-commerce, if I'm, maybe not everyone, but a lot of them. So walk us through your career and how you got here up to the point of starting Delectable.
Yeah, you're right. I've spent the better part of 3 decades in the trenches of enterprise software and commerce. I've had the privilege of helping scale some really amazing companies. You know, back in the day, I was at a company called ATG in Cambridge, Mass, and helped grow that company with the team. And it was eventually sold off to Oracle, and it was a great big deal. Then I went to a startup from Germany called Hybris Software, and not a lot of folks had heard of us at the time. We had real small revenues in North America when I joined, about $6.5 million, and we were able to grow that tremendously. And it was acquired by SAP eventually. So that was quite the experience in B2B.
So some would say you're a good luck charm.
Ah,
Once you work for a company, they're guaranteed to get acquired. So far in this story.
I don't know about that, but it was certainly thrilling, these experiences. After that, I went to a company called My Web Grocer, and that's when I really started um, dipping the toe in the water in the grocery space. I shouldn't say that; it was both feet in, and it was a great learning experience.
Now, is that like an early web van type thing?
Yeah, they were an e-commerce platform provider that was very specific to the grocery retailer space, and they were very successful at the time. They had most of the who's who in grocery.
That's where the Kroger or whatever wanted to have stand up their own site and didn't want to, you know, you couldn't really use a Shopify or a ATG for that because grocery was so specific. So it was a platform that was just specific to grocers. Okay.
And it was very tough stuff, right? Like in grocery, you're talking about eaches and weights. Generic commerce platforms don't really handle that very well. Um, After that, I spent some time in leadership roles at Miracle, which is a marketplace software solution, VTEX, which is a Brazilian commerce platform, which successfully IPO'd, by the way, on the New York Stock Exchange, and then off to Pivotry for a little while. And so if it involves, B2B SaaS, e-commerce, infrastructure, or retail, I've kind of lived it and breathed it my whole life. So,
And at these places, was your role more like sales, more like operational, more customer facing? Like where did you live in the traditional functional stack at these companies?
I think sales leadership, chief revenue officer positions, and executive leadership team roles.
You're not afraid to carry a number,
I am not afraid of carrying a bag.
manage a sales team, understand sales comp, and all the delightful things associated with that.
All those delightful things, Scott.
Cool. And then I'm not as familiar with Pivotry. Were you at VTEX when they were more of a platform, or they actually now kind of compete with Miracle, if I understand right? They have they took the marketplace thing they built and productized that, and it's either a separate product or spun off in some way. What was going on at VTEX when you were there?
When I joined the company, VTEX was about 350 employees, $425 million in valuation. The team was really focused on growing North American sales and really ramping that up. As you can imagine, coming from Brazil, the game rules for the US are a little bit different. And so we had to do things a little bit differently in North America and try to help grow that company. Eventually, it was very successful. We IPO'd at over 4 billion, 4.7 billion on day one of the IPO. So that was very exciting stuff.
And were you there through the IPO as well?
I was.
And then what does Pivotry do?
Pivotry is a system integration company focused on e-commerce as well as supply chain and data.
So through all those things, you were not the founder, and then you decided it's time. I'm going to start a company. What led you to that decision?
Really on in my career, I actually did start an e-commerce system integration company called D2C2. And I did that for about 9.5 years, and I really enjoyed that entrepreneurial experience. I was at my son's wedding, and a friend of mine who I've known for over 30 years came up to me and he's like, "Hey, we should do this. We've been in this field forever, and we've helped a lot of companies grow and succeed. Why don't we do it for ourselves?" And that's how I kind of started that.
Ooh, so I had a dramatic movie style setting, kind of like The Godfather. You come to me on the day of my son's wedding. I want to start a company.
It was a lot like that, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So That's awesome. And then was the idea to do agentic commerce in the grocery segment, or was it just someone that a buddy you wanted to start a company with, and you were going to go figure out an idea?
And, in all honesty, when we were first thinking about business ideas, my partner had actually, one of my partners had actually focused more on the auto industry, and I felt that it was oversaturated. Everybody was going after that industry. And I kind of thought back to my day when I was at my web grocer. And I realized when we were signing these really big deals, 8-figure deals, 80% of the deal size was actually around the CPG advertising that was being done on the grocery e-commerce website. And back then, there was no agentic AI, there was no generative AI, there was just people, right? You pick up the phone, you call CPG companies, say, hey, do you want to advertise? And even then, the margins were fantastic, in the 58% range. So, that was really the genesis from the advertising component of the idea.
And that was obviously my web grocer predated retail media networks, as we would call that mechanism. Today it's more automated, but what you were doing there is basically effectively what we call retail media networks today. Yeah, gotcha. And you know a lot about that from. Did Miracle have a RMN when you were there, or they were just more pure marketplace? Yeah, that's a new addition. Um, so you kind of navigated pretty quickly to grocery, and just kind of orient the timeline. What because I know your AI, I know this is going to be after 2022. That's just like a given. But what year were you kind of like having these discussions? When did you start Delectable?
About 2+ years ago, we started the company, and year one was really about building the product. Very hyper focused around building a great product. And it
So
wasn't until
2024 kind of time frame.
yeah, it wasn't until July of 2025 that we actually came out and told everyone that we actually have a company called Delectable AI.
I know that one of your folks was you surrounded yourself with people that have been in the industry for a while, and I can't even remember how I triangulated on what you guys were doing. But when you announced, I think I was like one of the first to pounce in there and say, I want to get you guys on the podcast. So we've been working on this for a while, but excited we could make it work. So for folks that don't, there's a million ways these things could work. Everyone's familiar with Instacart. A lot of people have experimented with a little bit of meal planning on ChatGPT. What's your vision? Like explain who's Delectable's customer, how does the software work, and how do you help deliver an amazing experience for the grocery shopper?
Yeah, so we started out by creating a really powerful intelligence layer that we call the Agentic Experience Platform. And that really brings together things like food intelligence, right? Everything about food, the nutrient levels, all right? Down to a molecular level, even, what specific ingredients pair well with others. And we really wanted to get that right because number one, it's grocery specific, and grocers are all about food. And number two, if you put together a meal plan or a recipe, it better taste good or they won't come back. And so that's where we focused our efforts first. Then we created shopper intelligence. And shopper intelligence is extremely important because if you're really going to do hyper personalization and hyper targeting, you better understand the shopper. And so the beauty is that when we start a project with a grocery retailer, we're pulling in all the loyalty data, all of their event data, right? And as well as the product catalog data, but really looking at that shopper from a 360-degree lens. And so we're co-mingling that information, all that food intelligence information, all that shopper intelligence information, the product catalog information, all of that is part of that agentic experience platform. On top of that, there are really three products. The first product is called Delectable Commerce. And this is really to create that very personalized experience for each and every shopper. I was speaking with the CEO of a large grocery retailer, and they said, you know what, Joseph, grocery retail, right, even with the advent of e-commerce, hasn't really changed the dynamics for our shoppers. They're not spending less time. They're spending the same amount of time. It's a time shift. In the old days, they'd go to the grocery store, they'd pick up the products that they wanted, they'd check out, they'd go home, right? In the e-commerce world today, they're spending 40 to 45 minutes planning their shopping lists. Then they go online, then they drive to the store, pick it up, and bring it home. It's really a time shift, not a time savings. So, with the advent of agentic AI, we're now able to create a time and effort savings for the shopper. And we believe that that is sea change. That is huge in terms of the dynamic that is going on right now. So that's why we created the Delectable Commerce product, which is this do it for me. Like I think the shoppers are saying, I don't want you to give me tools so that I can shop better. I want you to help me pick what's best for me, right? So do it for me. We believe that that is really this big mega trend that's going on right now, and that's why we created Delectable Commerce. The second product we created was Delectable Social, and this is really about the current customer experience on e-commerce sites today of the major grocers. They tend to be two-dimensional. They tend to be boring. They tend to be staid. And young folks today, they like to shop in a way that it's like TikTok, right? They want to go on. They want content creators and influencers to tell them what to buy. And if they find something they like, they want to tell all their friends and family about it. And if you look at the plethora of grocery e-commerce websites out there, there's only a couple or three that actually have this social media capability with social sharing and so on and so forth. And so that's why we created Delectable Social, which is to give them that TikTok style shopping experience right on the grocery website. The third product is Delectable Ads. And this is really addressing a huge issue right now. And the issue is this: if I'm Coca-Cola and I wanted to give grocer A $100, right? I'd have to work through a retail media network. I'd have to work through an ad agency. So that $100 by the time it gets to the grocer is only $40. And that's problematic. So we created Delectable Ads as a platform for CPGs to self-serve and allow the retailer to interact directly with the CPGs, allowing them to keep all the revenue. And that's big because, as you know, grocery is a very competitive business. It's a 1% to 2% margin business. But when you're talking about selling advertisement, you're talking about 80% plus margins. And that makes a difference.
So you've got three pieces: commerce, social, and ads. I got it. And then you are selling them directly to the grocery stores, I'm going to imagine.
That's right. We really focus on the mid to larger grocers in North America. There's roughly 70 or 80 of them. And those are the ones that we're really focused on because they have the scale, the operational capability, and the IT sophistication to actually pull it off.
And then right now they're probably using some legacy thing like a My Grocer or what is it? Do you sit on top of like their e-commerce platform or do you replace it? I guess is kind of the question I'm getting to.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And one of the things that we wanted to do for the grocery retailer was to make it easy for them. We wanted to create a lot less friction in the buying process. And so we don't require any rip and replace. We layer on top. They can keep using whatever commerce platform, whatever loyalty system, whatever marketing platforms they're using today. They don't have to change anything. We ingest that data and we produce results.
Do you have anyone signed up yet?
We do. I'm not prepared to say who it is.
Super secret. Okay.
Yeah, but I can tell you that they are our first customer and co-innovation partner. And we're really, really happy about it.
And then, okay, so I understand the grocer side of the equation. Now let's flip to the shopper. And I think it's interesting. You've got this food intelligence platform. You've got an agentic experience platform. That's where I'm gonna have a lot of questions. And then shopper intelligence, right? Do you go so a lot of the shopper journey now? The grocery, and you know more about this than I do, but the grocery industry forever has tried to kind of like start at meal planning, recipes, and then get into an ingredient list, a shoppable ingredient list, and then inject that into a cart. It's always been this kind of like Frankenstein type thing. I imagine because you're in the industry, you've kind of solved that. Walk me through the shopper journey and kind of like what's unique about the approach that a grocer using your platform can deliver, and where does the agentic piece come in?
I'll talk through one use case that I would say is pretty relevant here. Um, I think that Gen Z and modern shoppers, they don't necessarily want to go to a grocery app and do all the work, right? They want to be inspired. And it's all about the intent, right? They could get inspired on TikTok via a content creator, but there's a huge gap between seeing a recipe and buying the ingredients. There's a huge gap. And so we close that gap for them. Our AI takes a viral recipe, it can run it through our food intelligence and shopper intelligence graphs, which includes things like dietary profiles, the grocer's local inventory, and we can put into the cart almost instantaneously. And so we turn that inspiration into immediate action. That's the difference.
So you're helping me meal plan, you're helping me find my ingredients, and then uh, let's say I'm on the grocer.com as a proxy for whatever the grocery store is. Um, then does it just where the do it for me? I basically say I want these recipes, and then it may ask some questions like, "Do you have any allergies I should be aware of?" And then it just does it.
That's part of it, right? Like what we try to really focus on is the intent. Part of this is explicit. They may have told us they're diabetic, in which case we won't show them sugary products, or they're vegan. We don't want to show them meat products, right? That's explicit. Or maybe implicit based upon their shopping history, based upon what they do on the site. And so we're taking both streams of observation and putting that into our calculations, if that makes sense.
Sounds like you guys have been building for quite a while. I I sent my little research agents out, and we could find no fingerprint that you've raised capital. Is that like, are you guys kind of self funding this for the foreseeable future? Any plans to raise venture capital?
We've actually been very quiet about it. We've raised 1.3 million to date, and that is between the three co-founders and three safe investors. We've been very fortunate that these safe investors share our vision for the agentic AI in the grocery space. We are also in the midst of a seed round right now, and we are speaking with a lead investor, and we're hoping that that process closes off in the next 2 months. Um, and so that's for multi millions.
We have a lot of potential investors that listen to this podcast, so maybe we'll get a heated competition to lead your seed. We'll see. And our finder's fee is 30%.
Oh, is that
But
all?
for you, Joseph, we'll do 10%.
Okay.
You're officially selling to grocery stores, but we won't be able to kind of like know what the system looks like until your first customer, your kind of design partner there goes kind of launches their piece, right?
Right.
Now you guys do have kind of like a sizzle video out there. I've seen. Is that like where we should send people that want to learn more and see a demo, or are you able to demo something today? Or
They can absolutely go to our sizzle video, as you call it. We also have a new website that's coming out in the next week or two that has everything that you can imagine around the Delectable AI universe in our company. And we've actually built, one of our partners that is actually designing our site has built an agentic AI capability into the site. So you're going to be able to ask the site whatever you want, and the agent will answer your questions. So it's kind of cool.
so you can say, "Hey, I'm looking at buying these fig Newtons. Are they gluten free or what?" You can ask a variety of different things about various food products, and it will have all that.
Right.
Are you guys going to be a grocery shop this fall? Seems like the perfect show for you.
We do plan to be the ones that are on the schedule. One of them is Grocery Tech in North Carolina. So that's certainly one that we're planning on going to. We're also planning on being a grocery shop. I think that many of the largest grocers are going to be at both shows.
I didn't even know we had one called Grocery Tech. I'll have to. I'm in North Carolina, so I'll have to go to that one. Your ad piece, will it work with a bunch of the ad networks that are out there? So, like, there's a variety of. You mentioned agencies. You're gonna bypass them and go direct. But a lot of these folks are on a network of some kind, and you kind of have to be on those rails for them to run an ad on your system. Will you start building some partnerships around that as well to pull those networks in?
Absolutely. We don't for a second believe that it'll be an instantaneous shift to a kind of do it yourself for CPGs. But and to answer your question very directly, yes, we are looking at integrations with existing RMNs to make it very easy for the grocery retailer. When I say that we want to bypass RMNs, there's one RMN I don't want to bypass, which is the retailer's own RMN. and we want to make it really easy for their team so that instead of hiring 200 people, they hire 20 because everything is powered by agentic AI, right? That they've got agents working for them for intelligent workflow automation and automated approvals and all that good stuff that allows them to hire less people, but the right people.
Now, I know from one of our advisors at my company is Carrie Masters, and she's kind of like the queen of RMN. So she knows way more about that than I'll even ever know. And one of her big predictions is agentic commerce is going to drive RMNs into a lot of in-store type things. And I imagine that starts a whole chain of thought where, in the grocery world, you have to really understand in-store inventory. Is that part of the commerce platform you guys have, is like tying into that in-store inventory? Then do you have any plans on the RMN to go into the store? A lot of people are putting displays up in store. There's kind of like an in-store analog type ad mechanism, and then obviously the more digital. Is that an area that you guys are working into?
Yeah. So I think you asked two questions, Scott. I'll try to answer them separately. Yeah. The first one is, as you know, we are very much a vertical agentic play versus a horizontal agentic play. And although ChatGPT, Gemini Pro, they're amazing, but where they fail, I think, is that last mile of commerce, right? So ChatGPT doesn't know what's sitting on the shelf at the local grocery store right now. It doesn't know that. It doesn't know your specific local pricing, right? And it can't execute the transaction in a secure manner right now, for now. And I think that that's where we win, right? If you connect that intelligence layer directly to the operational reality of the service, then you win. So to answer your question, yes and yes. We're very much focused on making everything agentic and really being knowledgeable about the operational elements of the grocery retailer. Even though we don't replace the e-commerce platform of the grocery retailer, we can absolutely and in real time take advantage of all the data streams.
And then the second question was kind of like tying the ad system into the store.
At present, our focus has very much been around making the ads almost unlimited. So let me explain. In the past, it was very basic. It's like, I have some space on my website. I want to put on a product carousel, or I want a very specific category page, landing page, right? Very simple, very straightforward stuff. I think as we move from a traditional, which is today's e-commerce, to a more GPT style interface, which is more conversational, and then to autonomous, what we're going to see is contextualization is key. And so if, for example, you're on a grocery e-commerce site and you start asking very specific questions, because of the context within your questions, I can make that an advertising opportunity for any CPG. You ask for a meal plan, it could be sponsored by Procter & Gamble, as an example, right? And so that unlimited inventory makes agentic advertising a whole lot more fun. And it's very different, I think, than today's advertising.
You can have sponsored prompts, there's sponsored deals. It's pretty wild, the amount of surface area you can have for ads and a more agentic kind of flow. Even your social piece, that you could even have like little short roll type videos in there or whatever. I don't know if it's going to be a TikTok style, kind of shorts type program or not, but a lot of opportunity there for sure. So it seems like again, I'm a novice at grocery, but you have kind of the 800-pound gorilla to deal with. Well, you have the Walmart. Walmart is like doing really well in grocery, and then you also have Instacart. It's kind of a lot of the shopping that happens at grocery stores has been delegated to Instacart. How will you navigate those two kind of complicated parts of the grocery world?
The way that we see it, a lot of the large tech players, as well as a lot of the largest supermarket chains, they really dominate and they own discovery. They own discovery. Let's be honest. And, in order for regional grocers to really compete, they need to think about things a little bit differently. So, Instacart fills a very specific need. But the question is, at what cost? If I'm a regional grocer, do I really want to give away my data? Do I really want to, say, hey, data ownership is no longer important to me? Because let's be honest, Instacart's going to own that data. I think the second piece is who's going to monetize? Like I had this great revenue stream before Instacart where I could sell my space on my e-commerce site to various CPG companies. But wait a minute, Instacart has their own retail media network. They've got their own CPG customers that advertise on Instacart and not at the grocery retailer. And that's problematic because now you're taking my money. You're taking my data, you're taking my money. Do I really want to give those things away?
Yes, you offer an alternative that provides gets them caught up to the technology, maybe even leapfrog Instacart, and then they get to keep the data and the add to revenue. Gotcha. Okay. Um, Another kind of way to think about this in my mind, we have these horizontal agentic commerce offerings. We've got ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, and there's going to be more. And then there's the vertical ones. Most of the vertical ones are in the fashion category. Now we're starting to see folks like really explore other categories outside of fashion, like grocery. The kind of the natural question in there is, why do you think that a vertical approach here would beat the horizontal approaches of the big guys? Certainly, they're going to want to really, grocery is such a big percentage of overall GDP that everyone's going to kind of have some flavor of an offering in this space.
First of all, thanks, Scott. That's an awesome question. I love the question. I just had to answer that question for a CIO at a large grocer. Um, it's really fantastic that in our first project that we've been working on, we got to consumer testing. And we did a lot of tests. It wasn't just consumer testing. And there were three things that came out of the test. The first one is Delectable AI in comparison to general purpose LLMs was doing far better from a product match accuracy perspective. Okay, so you have the relevance because you have their loyalty information. In fact, you have all of their event streaming data. And so it's very much intent based. And and we have both the food intelligence and the shopper intelligence, all these graphs and hypergraphs that are built in. And so our level of pinpoint accuracy is far higher than just going through a general purpose LLM. And because we know food, it's natural. The second thing that we learned is that if you went to a general purpose LLM for a call each and every time, it's incredibly slow. I'll give you an example. It takes Claude 4 minutes to return 100 ingredients for products. Asking the exact same question that you would ask Delectable AI. It took us less than 4 seconds. We wanted to be conservative, but I can tell you the results of the study is that we're 8 times faster. And so here's the biggest piece, which is cost. You're going to get into huge token explosions circumstances. If you're a grocery retailer and you've got, let's say, 13 million customers, and every one of those customers are using your AI on a daily basis, I can guarantee you the costs are incredibly high. And so we also measured that. We are 14 times cheaper than going through a general purpose LLM. I'm not sure if that helps answer the question in terms of what differentiates us, but I think those are some of our key findings from our study.
So better, faster, cheaper. It sounds like a pretty good combo.
Yeah, not bad.
You can see why you're in sales, Joseph. Okay, so you've built this. You've got your kind of reference customer you're building on. You're working on your round. What's next for Delectable? Where are you going to take this?
We really want to focus more on the product. One of the products that we're going to put a lot of concentration on is delectable ads, because at the end of the day, we believe that it solves for a major problem in the industry, right? If you're talking about retail media, just in the grocery space, it's what, $100 billion. And if we can return 60% of that back to the grocery retailers' pockets, I think it solves a very major issue. So we're going to be very focused on building that product into the best thing this world's ever seen. The other thing is we want to realize the rest of our vision. We want adoption not just in North America, but even in global pockets around the world and eventually the world, because we believe this can help everybody, not just North American grocers.
I think it's exciting what you're doing. We want to keep a close eye on it. By the time this publishes, your website will have a lot of information that I encourage people to go look at. It's delectableai.com. Joseph, anything else you want to throw in there before we wrap up?
Scott, I just want to say thank you for the time. We really hope that Delectable AI can help all the consumers out there that are really time starved. Hope all the retailers can be more profitable, and of course, the CPGs can really get to what they want, which is the ability to get to the consumers that they want to get to with their products.
Yeah, and aside from going to delectableai.com to learn more about the company, you post pretty frequently on LinkedIn. I think that's one of the ways I found you, and that's just Joseph Lee. Anywhere else that folks, we'll put a link to your LinkedIn in the show notes so folks can follow you there. Any other areas where we should follow what you guys are up to?
No, Scott, I think that's pretty great, and yeah, we're excited about the future. And thank you for having us on the show.
All right, thanks for coming, and we want to check in with you in probably about a year in AI time. A lot will have happened in the next year. See how you're doing, and maybe you'll be able to talk about us about the customers, and hopefully you'll have a lot more customers by then. Good luck. Yep, and the founder's journey is always fun and exciting. So hope everything works out well for you, and break a leg with your fundraising.
Thank you, Scott.
Follow, rate, and share to stay up to date with Retailgenic, your guide to the future of AI shopping agents.